So here we go.
Hey, thank you, Michael. Welcome, everybody. It's Sunday Studio Live. I'm Karen Margulis, and welcome to my studio. It's a lovely rainy day in Georgia, which we need the rain, so that's good. But it's a perfect day to be inside painting. And so Heidi is going to join us, maybe. And I don't know where Jenny is. She'll come down probably when she hears us talking. Last week I had the privilege of painting at the Blue Ridge, Georgia plein air painting event, and that was a lot of fun. But it's good to be back home in the studio, and I thought, what a better day to show you a wonderful surprise that I got in the mail yesterday, and to try to paint with them. So I ordered, as soon as these were announced, I ordered them, of course. And it's Terry Ludwig's set of what he calls stunning yellows. So let me do the big reveal. Stunning yellow. Okay. As you can see, I love yellow. This color right here is my absolute favorite color. Right here. Well, that and turquoise. And
one on the bottom.
This one right here. And purple. Those are my favorites. But I love this color, and so I thought, this is a wonderful set of yellow, and they're all new colors that Terry made, and so and the box arrived yesterday, so I'm going to give them a try. And so whenever I get a new box of pastels like this, I do a couple of things. The first is fill out the lovely little chart that Terry gives. He gives a blank chart, and you just fill in the colors so that you have reference, and I laminated it. I've been going crazy with a laminator. My daughter is a first grade teacher and has a laminating machine, and if it's not nailed down, I'm laminating it. I love the laminator. It's true. I have all my visual aids over here. I've been getting ready. I have some workshops coming up, so this is all the stuff that I get ready for the workshops. And all my visual aids are now laminated, so I'm really excited about that. So the next thing I do after I make the chart is try the colors out, try the new pastels out, just to see. Sometimes they look a little bit differently in the stick, and then when you put them on the paper, it's a slightly different. So I decided to do a little color study. I'll come closer. This is 2.5 by 3.5, a mini, and this will be what I'm going to paint today. So I did a little color study just so that I could see what else I need besides the yellows to make this painting. It's an Aspen painting. Here's the reference photo that I'm going to use. Tiny, crummy little reference photo. I took this last year when I was in New Mexico. This was just outside of Santa Fe. And we had, you can see, a beautiful day, and got lots of Aspen pictures. And I'm headed back to Colorado and New Mexico in October, and so I thought, well, this will be perfect. I'm going to definitely bring this set, but I want to try them out first. And by the way, I have a workshop in Pecos, New Mexico that may have a couple of openings. So if you're interested, let me know. We have to check the waiting list first, but if you're interested, let me know. We had a couple of cancellations. So I'm going to do the Aspens. What I've done already, I'm working on UArt 400 grit paper. And I think someone asked me the other day on my blog what paper I prefer, what grit. And I like all of them. 800 being the smoothest, and I think 240 being the roughest, but I usually stick in the middle with 400 and 500. I have taken just a regular pencil and drawn in the big shapes of my painting, and I'm going to do a dry, see how I'm going to do this, because I'm going to work with two sets here. I'm going to do a dry wash underpainting, not a wet underpainting. I know some of you have asked for a demo with an underpainting, and I will do that, but today I'm going to just keep it simple and do a dry wash underpainting, which is what I do probably 95% of my paintings anyways. I'm using a new pastel, like a terracotta color, and I'm going to simply block in the big shapes of foliage with this.
Try again. Go ahead.
Okay, hopefully we didn't lose you. Hopefully, if we lost you and you're back, welcome back. I don't know, we had a little technical difficulty, but I'm starting the painting by blocking in the big shapes of foliage with this terracotta color. Now these are going to be yellow, but I want something for the yellow to have a base for the yellows. In other words, yellow's hard to work with, and if I just use yellow, there's nothing for it to play with. So think of this as the preliminary stage, and the yellow will be the icing on the cake. It's a good way to look at it. Then what I'm going to do is block in the background. I think I'm going to take my piece of pipe insulation foam. This is you get some cheap kind that tears a little bit better. This piece of pipe insulation foam is going to be my little blending tool. So I'm just going to blend it in so that I can kind of cover the light tone of the paper. And now I'm going to go ahead and start the background. I'm going to do the background first and then put the tree on top. And the reason why I want to do that is so that the tree will be integrated into the background and it won't look like it's pasted on. Or sometimes if you try to put the sky in on after the tree, you end up with a halo effect because you're being too careful not to ruin the tree. So I'd much rather take the sky or the background and work it into my tree and then pull the foliage out over the tree. So kind of a two-part process, I guess you could say. So I'm taking the sky color and working it into the foliage because the foliage in the tree is not quite as solid as I had it. So I'm breaking it up slightly. I started with a dark blue. It was a very beautiful deep blue sky, but if I make it too dark, I'm afraid that it might look like twilight or evening. So I'm going to lighten it somewhat and then get even lighter as I go towards the horizon. And I have a nice warmer blue because it gets warmer as it goes to the horizon. Oh, thank you. And then, let's see. I'm going to work my way down. In the background there's a mountain shape, so I'm going to put that in. Purple mountain. So I'm using a very dull grayed down purple for the mountain shape. And then that transitions into like a dried grass. Very light. And I'm just simply letting these colors kind of slip into one another. Because remember, it's the tree that is the star. Well, that's what I'm trying to remember. The tree is the star, so it's going to get the most detail, and the background is just something that's not. I don't want to call attention to the background. Now I'm going to darken it a little bit over where the tree trunks come in so that they'll be grounded. We don't want them to be floating or look like they're just popping out of the ground. Let's see. It's kind of a nice golden grass. Well, I could use those wonderful yellows. So I'm just going to put in a base coat, and I want to darken it slightly a little bit more, so I'm going to add a dark blue. Now I want to come in and put the tree trunks. Let's do this. Let's pull some of this grassy stuff down. I'll just blend it in, and I'll come back and refine it. But there we go for the background. So the background is all done. Now it's time to work on the tree. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put in some of the trunks. And I'm starting with a violet, kind of a grayed down purple color. And one thing that you may or may not notice is I am not really looking at the photograph as much as I am looking at the painting that I have set up. The photograph is simply to give me idea of the shapes and the sizes of the tree trunks. I'm going to put another like a straggler over on this side for a balance. And there's a couple of skinny, skimpy little ones that are growing just to fill up this empty space area that's right there. And back to my thought, I don't want to copy exactly what I see in the photo because they may not be arranged in the best way. And the other reason is I want to make interesting shapes and interesting intervals between the trunks. I don't want them to be all lined up like soldiers. So I'm going to design them the way I want them to grow. Now I'm going to add some light at the sunlit portion, and this is with a pale blue. I will get warmer with my light, but I'm just putting this in now so that I can remember where I want the sunlight to go, which is going to be on the right side of those trunks. Okay, now I get to play with these stunning yellows. So what I'm going to do is come in and start the foliage, but I'm not going to start with the brightest yellow that's in this set. I'm actually going to start with this orange color. And I'm also not going to paint leaves. I'm going to paint big, fat shapes of foliage. So I'm using the side of the pastel, and I'm just kind of skipping around and very lightly adding some of this orange to these masses, or you can think of them as pads of foliage. Add another one in there. And how low did they go? I will look back at the photo just for ideas, but I'm not really worried about copying exactly what I see. So that really doesn't look like Aspen yet, right? We need it to be a little bit more yellow. So I'm going to start in with the yellows, but I'm going to start with the darkest yellow that I see here in the box. And I'm going to go back over with this beautiful golden color. Still big shapes. I'm not painting individual leaves. The idea for this is going to be that I'll keep it in big simple masses for as long as I can, and then when I get to the end, I will paint a few individual shapes of the leaves, and hopefully the viewer's eye will be able to fill in the rest. Let's go with another one of these stunning yellows. The same idea, but one thing that I try to be careful of is to put, because I'm getting brighter, more sunlit, right? So I want to be sure that I don't put this brighter yellow everywhere. I'm only putting it on the portions that I feel would be kissed by the sun, because if my sun was over here, then only the right parts, or the parts that are sticking out, will get this brighter yellow. If I put it everywhere, it would end up flattening the tree shape out. So I'm leaving a lot of the dark areas in place. Let's see, let's do another one. Let's try this one. This is playtime. When you have these wonderful pastels to work with, it's fun to see what they do. Oh, I like that color. I really do like yellow.
I want to pan down to these.
Yellow. Here, I'm going to try my favorite. Let's see. Oh, yes.
Wait.
You see? You see? Look at. I'll do it up here. Can you see? Look at that. Look at how that pops. So if you start with the darker ones and then work your way up to the brighter ones, and I'm not using these pale ones because I want it to look like they're sunlit, and so I want to use actually the more intense yellows rather than the pale ones. And let me show you what happens if I were to use a pale. Let's just say I want this to look like it's lit by the sun, and I use a pale one, because we think, oh, lighter, it's lit by the sun, we should get a lighter yellow. Well, that's fine, but if instead I use a brighter one or more intense one, like that one or this one, my favorite, this one, look at how that glows, and that's kind of dull. It doesn't give that sunlit feel, whereas this more intense one will. Now I'm starting to do a few little individual leaves on the edges. So the aspen leaves, you know what they look like. I love them. So I can just make little blobs like this, little tiny blobs, and hopefully our eye will fill in the details so we know, oh, okay, that's what that is. And that's just part of how I'm going to define this tree. So again, we don't want it everywhere, because if it's everywhere, it won't stand out. That's enough for now. Let me put this back. Let's try this. Now I want to refine these trunks a little bit. This trunk is like, it's like not going anywhere, so we have to kind of, that one needs a little bit of help. I'm going to add this color on top of the violet. I wanted the violet there, but I didn't want it to be so obvious. Let's make it a little bit more subtle. So add this color on top. I like how this one in the photo has little branches kind of going off. I'm just going to hint at it, which is the wonderful thing about being able to do the background first. It allows me to come and add to the trunks and add the leaves without worrying so much about having to get the sky right up to these areas.
There's a couple of comments. People said they can't hear you. That's not the volume on our side.
Yeah, and no, we haven't done anything different, so I don't know what could that be about. Maybe a Facebook issue. I don't know. We haven't done anything different on our end.
We're not in charge of the volume.
We're not real. It's not like I've said this to people about this. This is just meant to be informal. We're not professional video people. We're doing this just for fun, and so we do the best we can, and hopefully that's good.
Oh, another person said no problem with the volume.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you, helpful people.
Ariel, boss.
Thank you. So I added a little bit of dark to the trunk, and I'm going to, I think I need to resolve, I got two things going on in my mind as I'm trying to paint and think at the same time. I have to resolve this foreground area. I'll put a few grasses, and I need to carve into the foliage a little bit more so it's not as dense. I want it to be a little bit more airy. So let's begin with adding some grass. So I'm really just simply adding a little bit of light, which is what, like sunlight on the grass, which is why I really liked, there's Jenny. Hi Jenny, come on down. She comes down the stairs and I think sometimes she forgets we're down here. So she's just checking. Let's see. We're just going to disguise some of the base of these tree trunks a little bit. And now let's take that sky color and come in here and do a little, that one, not the darkest one. Let's get that middle one. There we go. And I'm going to just take this sky color that I have and carve into the tree shape. That one's too dark. That one's, you don't want the lightest color that you have in the sky, or they'll look like you put Christmas ornaments or stuck things on top of your tree. So I'm actually going to use the darker one for the sky holes, the darker blue rather. And I'm just taking it and carving into this foliage shape so that I can create a little more air, make it a little more airy. The thing with sky holes, and I always had problems doing this, is it's very rarely do you get it in one pass. So it's a matter of putting in some holes and then putting more foliage on top. Sometimes I'll tap them down with a finger just to soften them. And then sometimes I get everything too thin and I have to come back with more foliage. So don't stress if you don't get it right the first time. I know for me anyways, it's a process of going back and forth with foliage and with sky. And don't forget, if you're doing air holes, I call them air holes, but you have to make sure like the sky doesn't go down this far. There's a mountain, so you have to take the mountain color and come and carve with the mountain color down on these lower parts. So don't make the mistake of putting blue sky holes down here or it won't make sense. And the same goes for when you get a little bit lower and you get into this distant grass color. So if I want to carve more, I need to use the distant grass color in these lower portions. Like that. And I want to have a better transition in my sky. I don't want a parfait. So I have dark blue and then I have this other blue. And it doesn't, oh no, it doesn't flow. It didn't break. You can see whatever color this is, I like it. And I need another one. It's so small. So I'm making a better transition.
Parfait.
What?
Parfait.
I don't want a parfait, you know, layer, like a 7-layer salad of pastel, right? So you want a nice transition from the darker blue to the lighter blue. Now let's do some of the finishing touches. Now, I know, let's get this nice, this is another Terry Ludwig little bit of this really dark one. So you know how the Aspens have the little scars, the darker bits on them, so I'm going to go ahead and put a few of those in. And those are like little spices. I like to do those. I'll hide that trunk in the grass a little bit. And if you want to have more of the finer branches, I'm using a dark blue new pastel and just kind of putting in some, drawing in a few little finer branches. These are the things that I do at the very end. These are like the decorations. Let's put some in the grass here. Do a few coming off of here. That might have something going off like that. And again, I can't stress enough that I'm not really looking at the photo really anymore. It gets to the point where you just have to make what you've got and try to make it into an interesting painting. And as I said before, on a previous Sunday studio demo, that because people had requested, can't you do those finishing marks and finish the painting live? And I explained that I really can't do that because I have to take time away from the painting until I know what those finishing marks are. So, you know, when I'm done painting with this, I'll take a break, and then when I come back to it, I'll study it, and then I'll know better what I need to do. But it's hard to not step back from the painting and make finishing marks. I'll get to where I think it's almost finished, but then I really need time away from it, and then of course I'll post it online. So what I did, I didn't explain, I took, it's almost white, it might even be, and I just put a few marks on the edges. I don't want it everywhere, but just a few around those edges. And I think I need to put, what is this? Purple. Because I have a lot of yellow in here, it's nice to have the foil of purple, so I'll put a little bit of red violet up in these tree trunks in here as well. And then I'm going to give a quick spray of workable fixative right at the bottom. Someone asked me a few weeks ago about the workable fixative. I used the Blair Low Odor, and they asked about the safety of it. Oh, sorry, Blair Low Odor Fixative. They ask about safety. I really don't use it all that often. You can see I just gave a very, very quick spray. I don't spray the whole thing. I don't fill the room with spray. So, you know, I guess you could say I'm as careful as I can be with it. But if it is a concern, you definitely, you know, would feel better about taking it outside. But again, I don't use that much of it. I just do a very, very quick spray. But what I like about it is it darkens, and this foreground, and then I can come in and add a few more pieces of grasses. I'm using the side. This is what I love about these Terry Ludwigs, the sharp edges on the side. I can come in and use the side of the pastel and make a few grassy marks. Just a few. again, and I see one more thing before I sign off. I don't like how thick this trunk is, so I'm going to give a little surgery to it, take the color that was in the background and negatively paint around it just to give it a little trim. It was too fat and ugly. All right, so I'm going to stop right now, and then again I'll evaluate it and post the finished painting. If you've got questions, go ahead and ask them in the comments, and as always, thank you, and feel free to share. I'd love for you to share, and I love your comments and your questions. Jenny and Heidi are happy to have you join us, and Michael, my photographer, thanks you as well, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.